My name's Emily. I'm the farm manager here. So I handle our more for-profit side of things. The market garden is where you'll find me most days, where we do have some things that aren't generally available in the free-to-pick garden, things that maybe need a longer grow time or have a little bit of a higher profit margin. And we sell at the South Bend Farmers Market. We've been there for 8 years. We have a retail space at our brand new Welcome Center that we just opened this year. And I have a 10-person CSA and relationships with some local restaurateurs and artisans. So that is, it's about a third of our profit every year is coming from that portion. The Unity Gardens has been around for about 14 years. We started with just a small garden in downtown South Bend. That was the brainchild of our executive director, Sarah Stewart. She was a public health nurse. She was doing a lot of screenings for community members and noticed her students going around to homeless shelters, food banks, offering these health screenings and telling people things like, oh, you have high cholesterol. Oh, you have high blood pressure. You need to eat better. You need to eat more fruits and vegetables. You need more fresh food in your diet. And she saw like a really severe contrast between what these folks were being told was the right thing to do and what they actually had access to. So from there, from that small little free-to-pick garden in downtown South Bend, was born this beautiful community of small neighborhood free-to-pick gardens and this beautiful 7-acre campus that we have over on the west side of South Bend. So everything here is free-to-pick, except for a part of the garden that we'll see a little bit later, our market garden. But basically, if it's planted out here and you can get your hands on it, you can take it home with you. We are staffed with a really awesome team of interns that act as garden guides who will just kind of hang around and ask folks how they're doing, see if they need anything. We provide some harvest tools and bags for folks to make it a little easier for them. We show them around, let them know what's in season, what's ready to pick, and just kind of generally share stories and recipes. We're always like very hungry out here, so everyone's always talking about food. So yeah, that's just kind of a really condensed history about what we have going on. And now we've grown from just the free-to-pick gardens. We also offer a variety of free educational classes around gardening, nutrition, cooking. We have a mobile classroom now, a nice fabricated van that we can take around to schools and other children's programs to do hands-on learning opportunities. So we do definitely engage with this whole kind of farm to school idea pretty often in maybe a less direct way. Most of us aren't necessarily educators by trade, but it's something that we're all really passionate about because we know that we can keep doing this for a long time and support a lot of people in our community. But if we empower our community to take these skills home and practice them for themselves, we're just going to build, stronger networks of healthy community members and really thrive. Any questions?
Could you explain like the neighborhood gardens around town, how those are started and
Yeah.
who makes them happen?
So generally folks will come to us and say like, I have this piece of land. I would love to turn it into a free pick garden. And then what we can provide is some of that preliminary like labor, getting raised beds set up, trucking and compost, mulch, providing seeds, starts. And then those gardens are really driven by a group of volunteers, sometimes even 1 or 2 garden leaders who are just really dedicated to making sure it stays planted and upkept. And I think we've really been able to kind of double down on those free pick gardens this year. A lot of them are expanding. We were able to provide a lot more volunteer help for them, like diverting it away from this main campus towards those little neighborhood gardens. So chances are if you live in South Bend, you've got one within a mile of your house. So I recommend everyone get on our website and check. I'm very excited to show the garden off to everybody, so let's go check it out. This portion of the garden has been in the works for about 3 years. The dream is for it to be a fully accessible space in the garden. So you can see we've got taller raised beds here. We've got pretty level pavers. We've got large gravel that's cleared for like wheelchairs. And if you'll follow me this way, some of the other features we have in here are just small things that make picking a little bit easier, that makes walking, if you have a mobility device, a little bit safer. So these are window wells that we got donated from a local concrete company. And so these are wheelchair accessible. You can roll underneath them and still access the majority of the bed just with your upper body. So yeah.
Cool.
It's a great addition. And we're consistently working on this too. We're building a parking lot soon to make this even more accessible so folks won't have to roll over the yard at all to get into here. So yeah, a project in the works, but definitely coming together. We have about 3 acres out here total in free to pick garden. This space up here is kind of the main space that most of our visitors come to. But there is space on the east side of the garden as well. That's kind of our secret garden. There's an apartment complex across the street, and we put it in hoping that it would encourage those folks to come more often, and it certainly has. It's a very attractive thing to live across the street from, if I do say so. Our greens are in a 2 to 3 week succession, so about every 2 to 3 weeks we're cutting back and replanting a lot of these greens, which is the primary thing that we keep out here. Kales, turnip greens, mustard greens, chard. It seems to be something really popular and something that we can definitely keep up with and keep fresh and available all the time. We succession plant squash. We have garden visitors that utilize every part of this plant. Folks come for the fruit, for the blossoms, for the leaves. So we make sure that we always have some squash in different stages of growth. So we don't do any sort of chemical pest control here, but what we are lucky to have is a lot of volunteers and a really strong team of summer interns who are out here pretty much every morning just hand picking bugs off of plants. This is our kids' garden. This is also something that's seen like several versions of what it is now over the last few years. But we always try to keep it planted with very like tactile plants, things that are soft or rough or spiny, things that have a lot of scent, things that maybe don't look edible but are edible. So we encourage folks to have a lot of fun in here and pick and taste pretty much everything. It's also right by our chicken coop, and they are probably the main attraction here. Whenever we have volunteer groups out, we always have to hold about a half hour back so everybody can come visit the chickens. I've seen a lot of kids hold chickens for the first time, which is a really wonderful experience. And we've got a small flock of hens, and garden visitors get to take the eggs home. We have our garden guides out here that always have access to this, and all folks have to do is ask, and if there are eggs, it's their lucky day.
Are you all just constantly reaching out to places that can donate like material infrastructure type things?
Yeah, we do. It's honestly what we spend most of the winter doing is reaching out for donations, writing grants, doing some of that more administrative style fundraising. So yeah, we do a lot of cold calling to companies. We spend a lot of time online scanning through like giving programs for corporations. And it's worked out well. We get donations from like Johnny Seeds every year. They send tools and seeds that are about to expire. Lots of tool companies, it turns out. You just have to fill out a little form and they will give you free stuff. That's great. It's shocking how many people out there have money that they're just like dying to give away to people doing stuff like this. Yeah. Especially when you're incorporating that educational aspect. I find that there are a lot of big companies that are really interested in investing in that kind of programming. I think that we're finally getting like corporate America to recognize that, yeah, our food system is very fragile and it's really important. And if you're going to invest dollars in something, invest them in this. We do, the bee boxes are kind of disassembled right now. We do keep bees out here. It's kind of hands-off for our staff. We often are working with a professional beekeeper to do a lot of the tending, but it is an incredible attractant. I'll just find people standing in front of the hives watching the bees come in and out. It's a lot of fun to incorporate that kind of aspect of our food system into here and having it available for people to witness for themselves, and then taking them out to like the beautiful blossoming plants and showing them the bees pollinating as they do it. I think it's a really cool experience that not a lot of people get. This is, we call this Pat's garden. So Pat is a volunteer that's been with us, I think, for about 10 years. So she's been here nearly since day one, especially in this site here. So she tends to this area basically every week. You'll find her out here at like 5 in the morning, at least once a week. And it's full of flowering natives, a lot of really fun aromatic plants. She's got like the most beautiful bronze fennel plant over there I've ever seen. So, and you guys are seeing it in the majority of its glory. So we do have 2 goats that we keep out here, but they've been here for just about as long as we've been on the site. They are about 10 years old, so they're getting to be old men. They're very sweet, and they are very good at eating weeds.
And so you don't really probably even feed them then, you just let them...
We only feed them in the winter.
nature.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're La Mancha goats, so they're native to North America, and so they can overwinter here. A lot of the rest of what's out here is just kind of native space that we mow paths through for folks to walk. But it's pretty much all native grasses and flowers. There's probably a ton of black locust trees coming up. Really all we do out there is go out and hunt for invasives once in a while, and then we just let the rest of it go.
Okay.
There's tons of milkweed out there, tons of butterflies. So this is our production space. So this we do keep locked up. We do have to guarantee harvests out of here. And I grow a lot of stuff back here that takes quite a while. So I have to make sure it stays in the ground. But some of the things we grow back here that we don't grow out in the open garden are a lot of alliums. I do onions and garlic. A lot of like more interesting like bean and green varieties. I do a really different mixed salad. I do like the bright rainbow chargs back here. Because I'm serving paying clientele, so I always try to make sure that what they're getting out of here is stuff that they can't just, go pick for free out in the gardens. Yeah. So it's a balance in choosing what I'm going to grow and thinking about what is really going to be valuable for my clientele. But
And here you have drip irrigation.
yeah, so I do a combination. We have been entirely overhead pretty much the entire time this garden's been operating. It works really well out in the open garden. It would be really difficult to manage a drip system out there with so many folks coming and going. So overhead's really been key out there. I do irrigate some overhead, but I did switch to drip because I'm getting more into growing alliums, which you need a little bit more control over their water. And I was having a difficult time keeping this half alive while keeping this half dry. So it was a big investment for us this year, but it definitely is paying off. I had a gorgeous harvest of garlic and onions. I'm very pleased with, so good. I think we'll keep it going. It's also a great way to kind of example different irrigation methods. That was another reason I really wanted to bring it in, and definitely folks ask about it. I think a lot of times folks only see drip irrigation like in YouTube videos or when, on commercials when they're seeing their pretty little organic farms on TV. And it is such a great way to conserve water. I think that it's beneficial for many different reasons. So I love being able to example that to people when they come here. I learned how to farm mostly in drought-ridden areas. So I'm always thinking about water and how much we're using and where it's going. I'm really grateful. I get to experiment a lot back here because my clientele is still very small. I get to trial a lot of new things. So this year my thing is mini fall squashes. So I'm doing 3 different fall squashes, but the miniature varieties of them. But people always want those nice, beautiful butternuts in the fall. So we're growing baby butternuts. So these are some of the really small ones. But yeah, this is probably not going to size up much more than that. I do a lot of potatoes, a lot of root crops back here. We do have 4 gorgeous growing tunnels. 2 of them, courtesy of the NRCS, yay. They have been here, I think the oldest 2 or maybe 8 years old. These are great. It's really highly profitable space for me. I do a lot of hot peppers. It's one of my kind of funny little niche crops that folks are now starting to expect from us every year. So I do Carolina Reapers, chocolate habaneros, the really spicy ones that are harder to find in grocery stores. And so those are great to have the high tunnels for. They're struggling right now. They've had a lot of heat today, but it tends to go pretty well. I love seeing the giant like pepper plants, like nearly the size of bushes. I think a lot of our healthy soils, a lot of our ability to retain nutrition in the soils here with such aggressive growing habits. We primarily sheet mulch to turn over beds, to put the gardens to bed for the winter. We don't do any sort of tilling here at all. In fact, I just got a broad fork last year and I was like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So yeah, out in the open garden, there's no tilling whatsoever. We only sheet mulch. We sheet mulch really simply with cardboard, sometimes compost, often not even compost in the wintertime. We do a lot of leaves, mulch, really high carbon materials, and let that break down during the winter. And then in the springtime, we just come through and lay rows with compost, and that's what we plant directly into. And you can kind of see that playing out in real life in these gardens. I feel like it's really obvious over here where you're almost like having to step up into these spaces because we've built so much organic matter in here over the years that our soil level is rising. I'll show you a really fun thing so this is a new field over here. All of our fields back here have names associated with them. So this is the pit, because as of 2 years ago, it was just a giant hole in the ground. It was the dream of being a Wallapini greenhouse that never fully came to fruition. So this space was filled in with backfill that was primarily sand. We have northern Indiana, we have sandy soils. We have exceptionally sandy soils here. Okay, follow me in here. So I sheet mulched this space after it was filled in entirely last winter. So I'd say November is when we finally finished the sheet mulching in here. It was such an obscene amount of cardboard. I never want to see that much cardboard again. And then we did straw, leaves, mulch. And then we came through this spring and laid these compost rows. And I really enjoy seeing my progress when I get into the soil. And you can actually see the layers of build that we have in here. It's a little better from this side. You can see these nice juicy layers of organic material breaking down, and then the sand underneath it that we're building on top of. So like I will say, I've had nutrient issues in here. I think a big part of it is because I was sheet mulching just directly on top of sand. And we probably need to do a bit more next year, layer it on a little bit thicker, really beef it up, so that as it decomposes over the winter, I've got another nice like 4 to 6 inches of new topsoil up there to work with.
Where'd you get most of your cardboard for? You said it was a ton of cardboard.
Yeah.
Is that cardboard?
Yeah, it's okay. So I do currently have a resource for sheet cardboard. Which is the best. It has no tape. You don't have to like break down boxes.
Gosh, yeah.
It's incredible. You can get sheet cardboard from like Costco too. Often if you call and tell them you want it, they'll hold on to it. Anywhere that like deals with a lot of pallets is going to have a ton of that stuff. And then all of our mulch and compost comes from South Bend's yard waste program. I have found, especially in the last few years, they've really improved the quality of their compost there. They quit accepting leaves and plastic bags, so there's really not a lot of debris. And we've had a lot of luck with it over the years, and it's free. It's free to everybody, which is fantastic. We use a lot of mulch too. We're starting to rethink that in this space a little bit. Any other questions about kind of like our methods out here, or about the gardens themselves?
Do you have a fleet of volunteers in here as well, or are you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do often divert volunteers into here. I like to bring smaller groups in here. I like working with people that are a little more detail oriented.
Yeah.
There's definitely more ways to screw up back here. But yeah, and I think we've had an incredible team of interns this year, and it's been a real joy for me to bring them back here and kind of introduce them to what could theoretically be a really marketable skill for them someday. Yeah.
And you're at the
It's
market
huge.
and CSA until October?
The market is year-round. So we have other products that we make here, and we have a few local artisans that we work with to make sauces. We work with a beekeeper to do honey. So we have produce usually right up until the first frost. I mean, we are in full production usually until the beginning of November, if we're that lucky. But yeah, and then after that, we just have product, a lot of it. Our peppers, they're like a real full cycle product for us. We sell seeds, we then sell starts, then we sell the fresh peppers, and then we save back peppers that don't sell. We dehydrate them and sell pepper powders over the winter. Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out today. I hope you felt a little bit inspired by what we do here. Maybe have some thoughts and plans for your own spaces. And yeah, you guys are always welcome to get involved too. We are always looking for new volunteers. We have a lot of really fun events out here that we invite the whole community to come participate in. So yeah, don't be a stranger.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.